Hello, Apostle Alton R. Williams, and I'm back with you again with our Black America and Socialism point. As I told you previously, I'm doing these series of tapings to give you some understanding, particularly the Black community, about what is getting ready to try to come to pass in our nation unless we stand up. If you will go back and just look in history, when you hear the name socialism on the news or in any kind of communication at all, it is important that you understand what they are saying. And history is the best teacher for that. Many people try to describe it in these great, glorious terms that is going to be so special. But if you go back and just look at history around the world, you will see what true socialism is all about. A lot of nations have started out with socialism, and they ultimately became communists. As a matter of fact, the gentleman who started all of this and was the first leader of the Soviet Union, Russia, which was under socialistic government, he stated that the ultimate goal of socialism is communism. I've given you definitions previously before, but just to bring you up to speed, socialism is when the government controls all of the means of production, the goods and services of the nation. They will own all of the production of that. That's the first step to communism, which is total control by the government. Government owns all property, food, everything. The government is in control of. That includes even your own house, businesses, property, land, everything is belonged by the government. So I want you to keep that in mind. That's the ultimate goal. And I want you to consider for a moment, just think about that you got property that you have worked hard for. The government all of a sudden comes in and takes over that property. You don't get a chance to sell your property. You can't give the price of it for what you want. They will determine whether or not you stay in that property, how long you stay in it. You won't have any rights at all to sell your own property. Go back and do your study of history and you will understand this about socialism. As a matter of fact, the very first video I did, go back to it, you'll see a gentleman who grew up in Cuba right prior to Cuba becoming a communistic nation under Castro. I challenge you to go back and look at that. He's going to tell you what ultimately happened. Let history be your schoolmaster to teach you what socialism means. I'm telling you, they're going to come in talking all of this glorious stuff, all of this fantasy stuff about how great it's going to be, the perfect society, that everybody's going to be equal, there'll be nobody that will be poor. All of that sounds good, but you got to understand what all of that comes with. It is nothing but the redistribution of wealth. It is wealth redistribution, which is trying to make all of society equal. There will be no class structure, no upper, middle, or lower class structure. That means everybody is on the same level. Again, as I told you previously, if your abilities can carry you to make $1 million and your next door neighbor can't make but 35, you will have to share your wealth with that person. Everybody has the right to make the choices they want. You are free to take whatever opportunities, coupled with the gifts and talents you have, to make whatever kind of living, whatever kind of pursuit of happiness, whatever kind of money you want to make. All of us have that right. We have that right in America, but you do not have that right in a communistic government. You no longer work for yourself. Just think, taking your money, giving it to the government, and they redistribute it to whoever they want to give it to, and particularly people who do not work. Think of the millions of people out there on the streets, don't have no purpose in life, don't want to work, have no desire. I can understand those who are incapacitated, those who are poor and can't help themselves and need a bridge in order to get to self-sufficiency. I understand that and I'm for that. But when there are people out there living on welfare and making more money than some people are who are out there working hard, I have no sympathy for that at all, because the Bible says if you don't work, you should not eat. Everybody that is able-bodied must get up to go and work. So that's why socialism is so unfair. Ultimately, communism. It takes your hard-earned money and gives it to folk who are not willing to go out there to do the same thing. The government tells you how to run your life, how to eat, what you are to not eat. Socialist, communist governments, there's always, remember this, there's always an elite ruling class. There's going to always be a group of people working along with whoever the leader is, and they will determine everything for all of the rest of us, for all the rest of the people. Now, I will say this about America. It is definitely not a perfect nation. America's made a lot of mistakes. Slavery and Jim Crow. But thank God, America made up for it. They made it right. They changed the law. So we can't use that anymore as an excuse. But I will tell you this, in all of America's imperfections, it is still the greatest and best thing going on in this earth today. America offers us a government for the people and by the people. Get this real good. This is the difference in us and socialist and communist nations. Communist nations, it is government for the government. The people do what the government leaders want them to do. They literally make slaves out of them to serve the purposes of the government. But in America, it is a government, it says, for the people and by the people. The people determine, their leaders. They get to vote who they want. They get to send representatives to represent them. They get a chance to give input on the laws or what have you. So keep that in mind. That's the difference in a free nation and a socialistic or communistic nation. We got the right to pursue our own happiness, our own level of economic happiness and what we desire. We can pursue our own life's purpose. In communist China, children are told by the government, they tell the parents what they want this child to grow up and do. So if they want this child to grow up to be a bodybuilder and represent them in the Olympics, that's what this child has to practice on. If they want him to be an engineer, if they want him to be a doctor or lawyer, the government determines your purpose. You do not have that choice or right. I'm so glad that I had the right to choose what I felt God was telling me or calling me to do. But you don't have that right in communist nations. So it is government for the government in communism, but in America, it is government for the people. This means when we can't work for ourselves and then use our own talents and abilities and creativity to have the kind of life we want, guess what? There's no incentive to work. You have no motivation to work at all. And guess what? You ultimately end up dying out. There's no purpose to live anymore. I'm watching this going on in Venezuela right now on television. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But history will show you that socialism has never worked. This is Apostle Alton R. Williams for your Black American Socialism Point for today. God bless you. Stay tuned to the next one. You can look at the bottom of our blog if you want further details on this particular point. God bless you.